get started in this discussion today, I must thank you once again for taking the time out of your busy schedule to consider this message and purpose that I'm feeling bubbles within me to share with you, and for you to consider applying to your personal journey on resilience. Today's topic is called Now After Revisiting. Now After Revisiting. If you haven't been with me for a couple of episodes, and maybe you haven't had a chance to check out the website 820podcast.com, but if you go there, you can really get a quick overview of the book that has spawned these 820 episodes in the podcast. So the book itself, Resilience, the Beauty of Presence. Now After, that title, is the last chapter in the book. So today I'm going to maybe touch on review some excerpts and commentary from that chapter. But more specifically, I want to talk about revisiting that now after perspective. Remember, my guarantee to you is to change your perspective on this present moment every time you listen to one of these episodes. But more specifically after that, I want to change your perspective on the present moment and on this thing called now after as it applies to this present moment. So the definitions, remember you're growing up as a child, now after, well, somebody knows the hereafter, meaning you live this life, you toil, you suffer, you do things for the betterment of others, and then when you're done and dead in the ground and rotting, you get to enjoy heaven in the hereafter. And not to fully and directly refute or refuse that definition of what this life is for, I titled that chapter as Now After because of that reason. We live this life now in heaven. Now, certainly, if you've been in jail, you've been like me through 3 divorces, 3 marriages, lost jobs, lost friends, lost family members, it's hard to say that's heaven, but that is part of heaven. Heaven is not all gold and roses and milk and honey. There are trials. If you go back as another contextual reference in earlier 820 episodes, I think it was a title from an episode I made called A War in Heaven. You may say, no way. Heaven is where nothing happens other than peace and love and music and food and everything. Now, there's war in heaven also. And I can say that now because where we are now, you can see war in this heaven that we all live. Yeah, we see peace and quiet and, nicely lined roads and, sunny skies. But to left and right, ahead of you, behind you, there's war happening. There's war on your journey today, my journey today. You're going to find that. So this is personal. Just as an overview of the construct of what it means to live now. After you have taken a time to define for yourself those things I mentioned to you before. Your presence, your beauty, your resilience. What drives you? I'm talking about where we are right now. Heaven and earth. Right here, right now. Heaven and earth. Heaven on earth. Heaven in your earth right now as we're sharing this air right now. Yes, I'm asking you to consider this as another resilience, quote unquote, model for you to apply on your journey. And as another example, when Jesus and the Bible and the Holy Quran instructs us about understanding and embracing this life, not as after we're done living it, right now. it was guiding us in the same direction as I'm speaking to you today. No, I'm no Jesus. No, I don't know Bible back and forth, nor do I know the Quran like that. But if we read or read and listened to those prophets, those religious texts from back in the day, those references clearly stated where to find this heaven. Some, as I said earlier in discussion today, as the hereafter. I've chosen the term now after. And I'm just a lowly junior messenger on this thing called resilience. You may find others out there who can give you a better explanation and roadmap to get into and through and with your own resilience. And certainly I am by no means even an aspiring prophet or sage on anything I mentioned to you about resilience. But if the kingdom, if the heaven, the place, the condition, the mentality, the spirituality, the peace that we all desire to have and experience more times than not, that's where it is. And what those biblical and Quranic texts have shown to us, they're asking me to change my perspective on where and when and how that thing called heaven happens. Not after some glorious death and funeral or so-called homegoing to some place in the sky. If that was even remotely true, why do most of you put your presumably loved ones in the ground? Let me say it again. Typically, most of us in the traditions of families, we have waited for that glorious death and funeral and homegoing to go to some place in the sky. But again, if that was true, then why do most of us put our loved ones in the freaking ground if they're going into the sky? It makes no sense to me, or with that all by and by in the sky thing. The now after I mentioned to you is here and now and present. Not yesterday or tomorrow or after your fantastic death. This experience and visits to heaven, to this now after, is now after you have changed your perspective and reference to the only moment and day you can ever enjoy and live with and love with. This day, this now. Now, for a real example to bring this topic home. Remember that thing from Jesus who was saying the kingdom of God being within you? Just consider this connection. The realm of this kingdom in heaven exists on the plane of your heart and mind already, because that configuration and infrastructure was insisted in you way before your and my appearance here on this earth. So neither of you nor I produce ourselves. Now, about your body. We established this physical here and now thing. Hereafter and now after location of your peace and presence. To your feet. The main and most often connection to you on this physical earth that grounds you to the earth is your feet. That connects you and the heaven and the current now after existence of you to the very ground of the earth that you traverse each day. That's you expressing and witnessing and walking and talking and exhibiting that formerly forbidden or impossible thing called heaven on earth. Perhaps you disagree with this scenario or perspective I seek to change for you, if only in these 500 seconds today. So feel free to delete this message from your phone or your memory banks. I've done my job here and now. After you have at least considered where you thought you had to die ultimately to see this heaven now after. But now after, hereafter, today, in this discussion, you have arrived. Stay present. Stay current. No matter where you are in this world, please remember, is always